Hey Luminary, Leslie Tagorda here with another episode, this time all about Chiron and the North Node meeting up in Aries. They do that exactly on Monday, February 19th, and you are already feeling it. So let's dive in and discover what this is all about for changemakers, leaders, and entrepreneurs.
Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be.
Hello, my friends. I am recording this on Sunday, February 18th, just right before the sun moves from Aquarius into Pisces. Ooh, the last few months we've had these like Aquarius pileups, and now we're moving into a Pisces pileup, and everything kind of feels a little bit concentrated in the sky. But this is an excellent concentration because this is truly opening us up into a new cycle. Now, I've been talking about Chiron, the wounded healer, and the transiting North Node, our collective soul potential. These two energies meeting up in 2024, and the time is here. I've been mentioning this at the end of 2023 because I feel that if you are a change maker, you're a leader, you're an entrepreneur of some sort, that this is one of those big transits, these big culminations of energies that are coming forward and asking us to awaken and step into our leadership. And so today I want to talk about what this Chiron and North Node meetup actually means. And I want to talk about what this means for you in creating a new cycle of leadership, a different type of leadership, what I like to call the wounded leader. Although the wounded leader, I can understand it can get really, really misconstrued, just because we think about just like the kinds of leaders who are, in power grabs and they're losing power, and so they take more control. And those are kind of like those hurt, like almost like I think of like a wild animal that's been trapped and they have like a really bad pain, and instead of like allowing people to help them, they lash out at others and try to have like more power and more control. That is not what I'm talking about in terms of wounded leadership. I think that the person who has the best kind of definition of what I mean for wounded leadership is Brene Brown. Brene Brown has been talking about vulnerability and shame for many, many years. And in the most recently, she's been talking about vulnerability in the workplace, especially in her books, Daring Greatly and Dare to Lead. And Brene Brown, when she talks about vulnerability in the workplace or leadership, Brene Brown says that the definition of vulnerability is uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. She then goes on to share that vulnerability is not weakness, it's our most accurate measure of courage. And that's what I truly see when we think about this idea of the wounded leader. We can change this into the vulnerable leader. And what does it mean to be a vulnerable leader? So, in Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead, she talks about the courage about vulnerable leadership, and she inspires people to lead by breaking down all of the research that she's done on shame, on empathy, on values, and changing the culture of leadership. And to me, she does a great job of inspiring people to take lead, inspiring others to be vulnerable. But this is where I feel a lot of like, especially me and a lot of my clients come in, is like, how do we tap into that vulnerability? How are we meant to lead, especially when there are no other role models or of emotional or intuitive leaders and change makers like us? How are we meant to guide others, especially when we have this multifaceted interests and capabilities? And how do you speak and present to your vulnerabilities and your mission and your vision with authenticity? Now, Brene doesn't go into that how. That's where I kind of dive in because we can see that into the astrology chart, but I'm not going to talk about that right here and right now. What I want to talk about is that how Chiron, your Chiron, well, I guess I'm going to talk about that right here now. Your Chiron, where Chiron lives in your chart, by what sign, by what house, by what aspects it has to different energies in your chart, shows you your path of vulnerable leadership. Because Chiron, the wounded healer, the long I've done a few episodes on Chiron, so I'll let you go back and listen to Chiron. But long story short is that Chiron, the wounded healer, can heal in others what he can't heal in himself. He had a couple of chronic wounds, like wounds of rejection, self-sabotage, so many different wounds that truly tap into the human experience. And in his healing journey and his healing path, he goes and he looks for ways to heal his chronic pains and ailments, and never really fully able to heal his own sense of rejection, his own sense of abandonment, his own sense of not enoughness, his own pain, chronic pain that should have killed him in his left foot. He never was able to do that for himself. But in his healing path and journey, he picked up so many different healing modalities and tools that he was able to create this beautiful healing temple where people came into his temple for healing and he was able to heal them. And that healing temple that he created, that is the symbolism for consent. He's not going around trying to fix everybody and being the martyr and say, I'm going to heal you, I'm going to heal you, I'm going to heal you. That's not how it's working. People consent to becoming healed when they step into that temple where he can then heal them. So, long story short, the gist of it is Chiron never was able to fully heal all of his maladies and his chironic wounds, emotionally, physically, spiritually, but he was able to heal in others what he wasn't able to heal in himself. And we all have Chiron in our chart somewhere. And wherever we have that Chiron shows us what is that path to healing. Also, what is that path to leading? And so, this particular transit, coming back to this North Node and Chiron coming together tomorrow, we are absolutely on a new cycle of coming into our authentic, vulnerable leadership. So let's tap into that more. So, just like a new moon, when the sun and the moon meet every month, we open up into a new cycle of intention. And this new cycle of intention, whenever two planets meet up, whether, if in 2020 we had Saturn and Jupiter meet up, we had Saturn and Pluto meet up, we had Saturn, Jupiter and Pluto meet up, we had all of those big meetups. And yeah, 2020 was the beginning of a new cycle indeed. Well, anytime two energies or planets come together, they are creating a new cycle, just like a new moon, a fresh beginning, a time of setting intentions, and an awakening. Now, that North Node, of course, is our collective soul potential, and Chiron, that wounded healer leader. Um, I like to think of this meeting of Chiron and the North Node as the awakened collective leadership. This is your call to know yourself, know your healing path, know the gift of contribution. That's all of that in that vulnerable leadership aspect in your work and leadership. And this awakening, this opening into this beginning, fresh start of a new cycle, is to see that your way, meaning your journey, the questions that you've been looking to answer within yourself, how you're meant to contribute, and how you were born to contribute, to heal and lead. All of this is awakening, and you've already been feeling this call. Now, of course, when we think about these exact aspects, even though this exact aspect is happening tomorrow on February 19th, 2024, there's a whole lead up to Chiron and the North Node have been getting closer and closer and closer for months now, and they'll remain pretty close for a few more months. And so It's not like just like, boom, we're here. You have been feeling this already. And so, can you recognize that this is your time to decide how you are going to rise up and step up into your path of your vulnerable, wounded healer leadership? Okay. So, going back to Chiron, right? Chiron, I mentioned the shortcut of the summary of the story. Chiron is the wounded healer. And in Aries, the question that Chiron is asking is, it's safe to be me, right? Aries is I am. I will go. I am my own person. I know myself. And Chiron in Aries, of course, absolutely, Aries represents one part of leadership, wounded leader. So the healer leader, through their challenges and lived experiences, like Brene Brown said, all of their vulnerabilities, this wounded leader has learned compassion, has learned vulnerability, has learned courage, and has learned giving back. Isn't it beautiful that Chiron in the glyphs on the astrology chart is symbolized by a key? Now, just really quickly, if you don't know what all these symbols are and you want to learn what these symbols are and what they mean and what they mean in your work and your business, my Written in the Stars is coming up live next week. This is your last chance to sign up. So head on over to starpower.com/written in the stars, all one word, and get in on that with me. But going back, that Chiron symbol is a key. And this key is literally your key to your leadership and your business success. Because Chiron represents, again, I'm going to say this over and over again, what you can't heal in yourself, but you can heal in others. Chiron and your journey of discovery and healing yourself takes you on your healing path. And this path is of discovery as you look to answers to your ultimate Chiron wound. And for most of us, our ultimate Chiron wounds are going to revolve around certain themes like, am I safe? Am I enough? Do I belong? Do I matter? Does my voice matter? Do my feelings matter? All of these, we can boil them down into these Chiron wounds. And again, I forget which episode that is. I'll add it into our notes. But I recorded an entire podcast on Chiron and all of the by sign, looking at the different wounds and how Chiron's own story shows up in our own work. And so when we think about our own personal Chiron wounds, and of course, if Chiron is close to an angle, like our rising sign or our midheaven or our IC or a descendant, your Chiron wound is probably a little bit more, I call it acute, more painful. If your Chiron is connected to your sun or your moon, again, a little bit more painful. And then there's a whole generation of us between the 60s and the 80s where Chiron was opposite Uranus. And to me, that is the ultimate cycle breaker. Okay. And so, whether, looking at your Chiron and how it's aspected is really going to give you that story. It's going to make it super crystal clear and specific to you. Now, part of your Chiron healing path is that all of that personal wisdom that you pick up looking to answer your Chiron wounds or heal parts of yourself, whether this be therapy or self-help or different healing modalities, or different groups and things like that you go to answer these parts of yourself and heal parts of yourself. This is your personal wisdom, and this is your Chiron journey. And this path that you take with your personal wisdom is answering your Chiron questions. And that personal wisdom, my friend, is the gift that you are born to give back through your work and your leadership. It's beautiful how it works out. I love seeing my clients' eyes just like open up when they come to their true Chiron gifts. Now, when we look at the North Node, okay, so going again, Chiron and Aries, that question is it safe to be me? Do I know myself? right? This is such a like a base thing. Everybody has this. Okay. Now the North Node in Aries. So the collective transiting North Node is currently in Aries. It's in Aries all of 2024. And the North Node is our human or our collective consciousness stretching and moving towards. And so, of course, in your natal chart, your North Node is your soul potential. It's one of your purpose keys, like where you're meant to move towards. There's a number of keys that are moving towards something, and the North Node is absolutely that. Now, when we're moving towards, because there's uncertainty, because it's a little bit new, because of its uncertainty, it makes it a little bit scary. This becomes a stretch. Again, you have to intentionally move towards this. Now, I say this human or collective, the collective we. So, this North Node in Aries is a soul potential for me, for you, for the collective we, so that we can embrace and become the highest possibility of Aries. Now, I know this can be absolutely confusing in Aries because of the Aries low vibes like selfishness and hyper independence and stubbornness and conflict and all the kind of the bad guck that Aries is so known for. But instead, the North Node is asking us to stretch and move into the evolution and the highest possibilities of Aries, knowing thyself so truly. That's why astrology is such a gift. Being your best self, walking your own path, not only walking your own path, knowing your own path, knowing the pace, not worrying about if cars are zipping by or you're moving too slow or you're wanting to take the scenic route. You have your own path that Aries wants to take and pioneer. Okay. And then lastly, one of the highest evolutions of Aries is that interdependence. It's a combination of both Libra, of the dependency, the shadows of like the people pleasing and the dependency of Libra, and then the hyper individuality and hyper independence of Aries, those kinds of shadows. But if we raise that up, interdependence means the mutual dependency on each other, meaning that when, like a potluck, right? If we come to a party and it's a potluck party, everybody brings a dish. Now, if everybody was bringing desserts, that's not going to work. But personally, I don't like to bake. So that's great. I'm going to bring something to throw on the barbecue or the grill, or I'm going to bring an amazing salad. And my friend is going to bring something to bake, and another friend's going to bring some like cocktails and things like that. So that's the interdependence, is like knowing what we're super good at and what we are here to contribute into that potluck of the world. And so that North Node in Aries is us all stretching into our soul potential of knowing ourselves, being our best selves, walking our own path, and interdependence, knowing what we are meant to lead and contribute into the whole. And so, individually, the symbolisms of Chiron in Aries and North Node in Aries, well, now that they meet up in Aries, like I mentioned earlier, we have a new awakening, a new cycle. So now, just like on a new moon, it's time to decide how you will rise up and step onto that path of wounded healer and leader. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what you're meant to stretch into. So, what you need to reframe, what you need to say yes to, what you intentionally need to move forward into, and what you are meant to dismantle and resist, say no to, with this energy. So let's talk first about what we're stretching into and saying yes to. So this North Node and Chiron meetup energy is so perfect for you to know how you are meant to lead, right? That vulnerability part. I'm going to always come back to that wounded leadership in terms of like that vulnerability of compassion, of acceptance, of courage, of giving back, of empathy. That is a true vulnerable leader, and sharing your own stories. So knowing how you're meant to lead is what you're saying yes to. Sharing your stories of challenge without shame, but also not using it as like kind of clickbait either. It's like, there's a fine line there, right? But like really sharing with vulnerability and how you got to where you are, seeing your wounds as challenges, as the gifts that you are meant to contribute, right? Part of hiding so many of our wounds and our shames is that we're actually not allowing the people who need to hear it to hear it. Like we're hiding all those parts of ourselves. And so we're stretching into seeing our wounds and challenges and sharing them, because these are the gifts that you're bringing to that global potluck of leadership. And so we're also this phase between Chiron and the North Node is asking you to take a stand. It's asking you to be seen, to be recognized. That is such a great part of that Aries energy. This energy is also asking you to empower your own sense of individuality, equality, and community. You're not just a silo standing at an island on your own, but you are an individual that is part and equal to a community. And then, of course, finding your interdependent people and communities, finding your people who, like me, if I like to bring things to throw on the barbecue and the salad, who are not depending on me to bake a cake, because I'm just going to go buy a cake and it's not going to be that good. I'm so not a baker. So now, what do you need to dismantle and resist? Okay. So with North Node and Chiron, this energy, this meetup energy really wants you to face your fears. It wants you to face your fears of leading. Of course, this world hasn't been designed. It's changing. That's what we're doing right now. We're changing the faces of leadership in 2024. And there hasn't been leaders that look like you or me. It's changing. And so now it's like, how can you be brave to lead? Thinking about things like persecution or not speaking up or being victimized or not doing good enough or failing or rejection, all of those things. Come face to face with what it is that you are fearful for stepping up to be seen. Because once you can come face to face with that, you can start to make different decisions so that you can step up and be seen by your people. This energy also wants you to face your shames. Okay, how can we remove shames of wounds or challenges or differences? Shame is very, very, very powerful, and especially as you're at least for me when I was younger, conformity. I'm a Gen X person, and conformity is one of those things that was really instilled in us. And so being a little bit bigger bodied, having freckles, having curly hair, having all of these different things that were different about me, I was just like a walking boat of shame. And so this energy is saying, hey, if you still have any shame, come face to face with it. Ask the shame what it's trying to protect you from. And is that still true? Okay. Now, the North Node and Chiron also wants you to face why you're hiding your and denying your strength. So, a little bit different from shame, meaning it's like if you have strengths that are maybe more emotional or intuitive, maybe you're still hiding or denying them because you think that people won't value them. Well, these are the energies, the intuitive and emotional strengths that are really coming into the fore that we really need. Because when people feel safe, that's that emotional aspect, that emotional intelligence. When people feel safe, when they feel seen, when they feel accepted, when they feel belonging, again, all emotional strengths, that's when true change can happen. So we're starting to see that we need all kinds of strengths. And so if you felt any part of your own particular strengths that you want to hide or deny, and you're trying to, do all these other things to make you seem different, that's working against your authenticity. And so really you're coming face to face with, what are my strengths and am I hiding or denying them? Of course, astrology can tell you how to do that. Now, of course, this energy also wants you to face your systems of inner personal and different types of systemic oppression. Okay. How are, these systems of oppression that we all live and breathe under will make us hide and deny parts of ourselves, will make us feel shame, will make us feel fearful of stepping up. So maybe I should have put this first. Like, what inner oppressor or systems of oppression are we still holding on to and upholding within our own lives and work that we need to really kind of break down even more? You've been doing this for a few years now, so I feel like that work never is ever complete. So keep on breaking it down. It's just like, got to clean up house every day, sweep the floors every day, do the dishes every day, do what you need to do so things don't build up. And then lastly, with North Node and Chiron meeting up, I want you to face why you think you can do it alone, because you can't. Okay. That not one single person can do it alone. Again, we're not an island alone. We are not silos. We need witnessing, we need community, we need help. No matter what, whether you're writing an article or building a business or being a leader, we are never doing this alone. So finding your people and really uncovering mindset or belief sets that say that you have to do this alone, because you won't get very far when you're doing this alone. Okay. So again, in summary, what does this mean for you as a change maker, entrepreneur, or leader? Well, Chiron and North Node meeting up starts a new cycle of awakening in your one of a kind leadership. Now, Chiron and North Node don't have a regular meeting path because they're, North Node changes every 19 and a half years or so. Chiron changes every 50-year orbit, North Node 19-year orbit. And so they don't meet up regularly. And so the last time I think was 2008 in Aquarius, but this new cycle, this random cycle has already been building and awakening your one of a kind leadership. This energy wants you to recognize that you're born to lead simply because you have been on your healing path and now know that your vulnerabilities are your strength. Your lived experiences and the work you've done to heal yourself, to make you a wise, compassionate, courageous, and generous leader are absolutely your gifts. The world needs more of leaders like you right now. Will you recognize your way that makes you a consensual contributor, right? Again, consensual consent is so important here. Don't help the people who haven't asked you for help. Don't try to fix your parents. Don't try to fix your family. Don't try to fix the family unit. Don't try to fix your coworker unless they consciously ask you, hey, I need help. They come to you. Your clients, there's always consent there because they have paid you for transformation. So you can always double check on consent. I love to always talk about consent. It's like, is it okay if we talk about this challenging thing? If you don't want to talk about it, and always kind of inviting to go into that next deeper level. And then lastly, what do you want your leadership to look like? Who do you want it to help? And how will it change the world? So, my friends, I'm super excited about this aspect. It's one of the aspects that I've been looking towards for a few years now. Of course, I'm a little bit biased because I've gone through my Chiron return. Chiron just plays such a huge role in just my work and what I'm here to do with my Chiron and Aries in the 11th house of, becoming leaders and social impact makers and knowing our own identity. Chiron and Aries, is it safe to be me? Is it safe to have this mixed identity? So I just absolutely love Chiron. Now, if any of this spoke to you and you're still questioning how you are meant to lead, or you want to know yourself so much more deeply from this truest, most authentic view of you, your natal chart, again, written in the stars, my foundational, comprehensive introduction. It's a really introduction. I think of it as like the Astrobrand 101. I teach you how to read the natal chart from an inner awakening perspective and an outer leadership part, outer leadership work. So, of course, the inner awakening, it's like, what are the pieces of our soul that we need to heal and tap into? And how are you meant to outwardly express this in a memorable brand, a memorable leadership, ability to make change so you can make your mark? This starts next week on February 26th. It's a 5-day training where we'll be coming together. I will be breaking down all parts of the natal chart so that you can find degrees on your chart, so that you can know what the different zodiacal archetypes mean from both an inner awakening and an outer leadership perspective. We'll be talking about the planetary processes. We'll be talking about the houses and how they represent different areas, and not only your life, but also different areas of your business and your leadership. If you want to learn how to read your natal chart in the Astro Brown way, just like I do, then this is your chance to take this live training on February 26th through March 1st. So if you are interested in that, be sure to sign up before February 23rd and head on over to starpower.com/written in the stars, all one word. All right, my friends, I can't wait to see how you awaken your collective leadership. Take care. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.